This is the Fight for Your Health, the show that teaches you how to master the fine art of living your life on purpose and have a longer, healthier, and happier life through the martial arts lifestyle. The show is hosted by Professor Buitron and his co-host, Grand Master Richard Hackworth. These two experts have combined their efforts and are on a mission to make the world a safer, healthier, and happier place through the martial arts lifestyle. Now, to tell it like it is, here are your...
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's that time of the week that you've all been waiting for. The most informational, educational, and useful martial arts radio show in the universe. The Fight for Your Health TV show here on YouTube and other social media platforms. Our host is Professor Buitron, and I am your lovely and talented and extremely modest co-host, Richard Hackworth, and I will be introducing our guest here shortly, someone that I'm a big fan of his work, and that is David Nelson, the author of Black Belt Healing. And Professor Buitron, if you'll take it over now.
Sure. You know, he's a wonderful guest of what we've been touching base kind of in the Zoom green room, as they say, but it's interesting to see that the more we practice, the longer that we're in the arts, the more that we start seeing the arts as more healthier towards individuals and so on and so forth. And I guess the more you start looking at it as a healthier based practice and just let's go out there and hit a makiwara or hit a bag as hard as we can, we start actually looking of how to take care of ourselves in doing so. And I'd like to hear a little bit more about that and what he's, you know, because he's a karate practitioner, long time karate practitioner, Iaido practitioner. Of course, he's done Aiki arts, and so it's something that comes down my road in the sense of those are the arts that one admires, and it's always well to understand what others are doing out there and to learn, you know, because we number one, we're here to learn. And our, you know, for right now, our great guest and a pillar in the karate world. How we doing, brother? You doing good, David?
Well, I'm doing absolutely wonderful. And I'm just happy to always be here.
And tell us a little bit about, let's bring back when, let's talking about health, talking about the benefits of it. When did you realize that there was such a thing within the pugilistic art of karate?
Probably after about maybe 35, 40 years into the arts, I began to realize, the mileage begins to creep up on your body, you know. So I started training in in karate back in in '69. So basically most of my early training was in the '70s, and the good old blood and guts era. And we didn't really have protective equipment. I learned on a concrete floor. We didn't have padded floors. And so there was a lot of damage. And so a lot of we had to learn self-care. You know, Sensei would teach us how to take care of those moments when you ate your family jewels. I mean, they got kicked really hard, and how to take care of yourself, how to heal from that, or when you would get knocked out. How to resuscitate an individual. I mean, these are the things that we actually had to learn out of necessity. But as I got older, I realized, the orthopedic injuries piled up. I had a few head injuries. We get concussions. So you get to that place where like, hey, I better start taking care of myself. You know, it starts to really affect your ordinary everyday lifestyle.
Sure.
Well, sir, for me, this is an exciting opportunity. I know, I reached out to you and had got your book, Black Belt Healing, and I was really curious when I saw the title. How did you make the connection from martial arts to pain management and injury recovery, and decide to write a book on it? Because I haven't seen any other book on the topic that's done the way that yours is, with all of the examples.
One of the things early in my life, when I was about 15 or 16, I actually started having panic attacks. And in order to help myself, martial arts was helpful to me, but I picked up a book on self-hypnosis. And from there, I started to learn about the power of the mind and how to actually take care of myself and to feel better, to be more relaxed, more centered and controlled. And then that evolved eventually into meditation, into the Zen arts. I eventually spent 8 years studying with a Zen master, and to learn to take care of my inner world. So that was the beginning for me. To begin my own inner healing was more on a mental, spiritual manner, more so than physical. But then as I got into the arts, I realized that the martial arts and the healing arts, they dovetail. I mean, if you know how to break it, you have to know how to fix it. And I was fortunate to have a lot of friends who are into the healing arts as well. I became a psychotherapist at one time, as I became a man, and started working actually with people who had addictions. And one of the things, especially with the addictions to opioids. So, and I realized, hey, a lot of the folks that I'm working with have chronic pain, physical pain. They also have a lot of deep psychological pain as well. And so I started working with those individuals, and I saw also within the martial arts these corollaries. And I was able to dovetail my passion for the martial arts with my profession. And Black Belt Healing was sort of born from there.
Sure.
Well, I know throughout the book that you make a lot of excellent examples, and particularly your chapter on your mind's dojo was one that kind of caught my eye. And I think that this is such an overlooked topic in the martial arts community that people rarely understand how important this is. And what advice would you share with our viewers on how they can become better at using these aspects in their own training and in their own lifestyle?
Well, just to take the time to study and research, how the mind works. For me, I'm a big, a meditator. I love to meditate. I think meditation really gives you an opportunity to sit down. And then I'm not talking just sitting down 10 or 15 minutes. That's good. That's good to relax. But to really get into the rigor of an actual practice of sitting down for 40 minutes, and then just sitting quietly and following your breath, it's amazing how your body wakes up. You find yourself reacting to, hey, I don't want to be here. You start to see the mind, the body reactions. And from there, you can really begin to start your own healing. But you have to slow down and really take that time to watch. It's as simple as that, but it's difficult as that. And within my Zen practice, we would do retreats, 2 or 3 day retreats where the meditation, we sit for 40 minutes, then you do 10 minutes of walking meditation, 40 minutes of sitting, 10 minutes of walking. And you do that on and off pretty much all day for a couple of days. And I'll tell you, your body really begins to ache. Your mind really begins to scream, and you have to deal with it. And that becomes the healing aspect of being taken out of your comfort zone. And that's when the healing begins, is when we have to step outside of that.
And here's a question that I'm going to ask. When you see the martial arts from all around the world, you see a lot of emphasis work dealing with healing, with breaths and stuff like that, with Zenism, from the Japanese, Chinese, the Oriental arts, the Eastern art. You don't really see that much coming from the Western arts. But the calming, I guess, in due practice, the more you do it, the more calm you get. I guess that's what I can. Okay. Why would you say that is so? Where do you think, did it pick it up in the East because of more of a religious connection, or with Zenism, with Buddhism, with everything else, or was it something else?
Well, I think the East tends to view our bodies and minds like weather landscapes. We're more like weather patterns, and taking a look at the landscape of who we are. Are we hot or dry, wet, damp, and how do we maintain that balance? Whereas in the Western medicine, we really tend to take a look at us like we're a bunch of car parts that are interchangeable. And there's nothing wrong with Western medicine. If I have a major car accident, I love it if they take my car parts and fix them up. But in terms of daily lifestyle, daily living, to really view our mind, our body, our spirit as weather patterns, and learning how to make adaptations to weather patterns. Like, you know, I'm originally from Wisconsin, where in the winter times it gets 30 to 40 below zero. And a proper adaptation is to put on heavy coats and boots. I can't change the weather, but I can make a good adaptation. And so if I'm having I'll just say a panic attack, I have to make an adaptation. I can't get rid of it. And one of the things I talk about in Black Belt Healing is please don't feed the bears. You know, if you're having a physical issue or a mental issue, if you fight it, you actually feed it. Like if you meet a grizzly bear in the woods, if you fight or run, which is our natural response, a reaction, we actually end up feeding the bear. But learning to sit down and watch, it really changes everything. And you begin to say, hey, okay, I need to really just play dead and not react, but to begin to choose my response. And what is the best response? That moment will determine what that response is. In the East, and especially in the Kung Fu arts, I have a very good friend of mine. I'll give a shout out to him, Miles Coleman. Good guy you might want on your show. He's a master of Kung Fu, and he's my herbalist. He's been my herbalist for 30 some years, and a master in Chinese medicine. He's a guy who really helps mend my knees when I've hurt my back. And he's taught a lot about the landscaping of our bodies and minds and how to manage that. Again, the secret of the Kung Fu arts, those Chinese arts, is not so much the fighting system, there's the healing system, so you can get back to training faster. Sometimes I ramble, so feel free to jump in.
No, and that's what we've noticed, you know, because I've seen that the same way with the Eastern arts, and there's the more, how can I say, closer to Tibet, the more you get a little bit more into the healing, more into the mindset. And understand?
Right.
And over in the West, you don't see that quite as much. And
No.
you know, and I'm looking at all the arts of the West, you know, Greco-Roman wrestling, boxing, fencing, savate, boxe française, and even capoeira. You don't have that healing, even though things existed at particular times, that you can say, you know, oh, so and so used to do this back then, but it's no longer practiced. I don't know if in the 1800s they had something to do with it that is no longer used or practiced or has been forgotten. Who knows? I don't know.
Well, I guess the mindset too. I think the Western European cultures tend to be more divisional. Again, car parts kind of a mentality. Everything's a different parts. And they don't really work with the interconnectivity of everything. And so they may not always see how A is connected to B. Whereas I think in Eastern medicine or Eastern mindset, it's more of a harmonious pattern. And how do we jump into the flow of that stream, as opposed to trying to block the stream and carve it out. It's just a different mindset. I mean, neither one are wrong or right, but I think it's just in terms of everyday lifestyle. I do prefer the Eastern mindset because the longer you sit, the longer you become quiet. Like the longer you do the martial arts, you begin to find that flow. Just like in the Aiki arts, you work with what you're given. And, and the same with the healing arts. You have to work with what you're given. And what we like about, you know, what's nice about meditation is not so much that we're trying to achieve calmness, is to understand that by nature, we are naturally calm. It's just remembering of who we are and reconnecting with our pure nature and learning to peel away that which has been conditioned and acculturated over the years.
Absolutely. And where can somebody order your book? Is it on Amazon? Is it not on Amazon? Where's it at?
It's on Amazon. You can get some good ones on Amazon. Also through the publisher, Tuttle Publishing, which is a really large publishing company, which I was very fortunate to score that contract. But Barnes and Noble, I think even Century Martial Arts carries it yet too. So, but Amazon is probably your best deal.
Yeah. Well, I know that personally, I've really enjoyed the book. I've given it as a gift to fellow martial artists. And one of the things that I was interested about was how you use the layout of the dojo as a metaphor for the workings of the mind. And, you know, before your book, I never chained together the ideas of meditation, mindfulness, and self-hypnosis as part of my training. I came from a background where we were more physical, and it really opened my eyes to like the far-reaching benefits mentally and spiritually of our training, you know, reading your book. Is that something that you naturally chained together to make those connections, or was it something you were taught?
I was, I came up with the mind as your dojo, but it was sort of I sort of borrowed from Carl Jung's depth psychology, again, stealing from my profession and understanding that they're the layers of the mind. And then I was looking at, looking at a dojo, I'm going, oh, they overlap. You know, the layout, walking through a dojo is just like walking through your mind. And so all of a sudden all the buttons, you know, got pushed and I wrote the book. So it made sense. I hope that answered your question.
No, you did. You did. Now let's look at this, you know, you start seeing some of the arts of the Chinese arts, and everything has, and they start talking about Feng Shui and how everything could be laid out in the training hall or at the house and so on and so forth. How do you feel about that? Do you feel that it should be done in a certain fashion, or for
well, I'm not a Feng Shui expert or anything. I mean, I've studied it. I've taken courses in it. There is some validity to it, yes. You know, about setting up your home in a proper direction, but it also means setting up your body as well, because that's our home, and setting up your mind is our home, and making sure that those are lined up. And I think a lot of that has to do with leading a fairly simple life, taking time to really be mindful of what you're doing moment by moment. We make our lives really complicated. It becomes un-feng shui when we begin to tie into the storyline that we run about who we are, who we think we are in our brain, which is really just memories of the past and dreams of the future. That's not really who we are. We are right now where we are in this moment, observing.
Sure.
And everything we hear and listen to and judge is already gone. That makes sense. And so we are that flow itself. I know it gets a little esoteric for some folks, but you know, we tend to get really caught up. We become out of the flow when we become too trapped by our memories, our egos, and we get too trapped by our goals too. And that can be a really dangerous thing. Some people become so goal-driven they become off balance. And you know, again, it's about that balance. Feng Shui, the martial arts. I mean, you know, we know the best way to defeat our opponent is to get them off balance. As soon as that person's off balance, you can knock them over quite easily. And so we have to make sure that we maintain our own balance. And that's what this is all about, is just keeping that balance. And the healing arts is part of our own self-defense, is maintaining our balance and our center. And living from, as the Japanese would say, living from your belly, you know, living from your hara. And in the West, we tend to live too much from our heads. We're very top heavy. So easy to push over. Once we learn to live from our belly, life is a lot easier. That makes sense. So
no, it does. And that just reminded me a bunch of John Ayers, where he used to say you have to walk from the center of your stomach out, or, you know, and I was like,
right. Yeah. Well, it's and so that's just part of the fun of the arts too. The older I've done this, the longer I do this, it's just more fun. And especially when we start going more internally, as our body has become tenured in life, because I don't consider myself old yet. I'll write poetry about being old, but I really don't feel old yet. I mean, I have my moments, but I feel just very more happy and in tune with the flow of life, because I can't rely on strength anymore. I can't rely on tricks. I have to rely on just pure awareness, and all the martial arts is about that internal healing. and reconnection with who we really are. And that's real black belt healing right there.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, I know that I see your poetry and your daily practices with meditation and the sword on your Facebook page quite often. And I was wondering, for our viewers, what would you recommend someone do or begin as a daily habit, or what things could they do as daily habits to begin that journey and to start experiencing the benefits of self-hypnosis and meditation along with their physical practice?
Well, sure. I mean, there's a lot of good resources actually today on the internet for self-hypnosis. There's a lot of good teachers out there. But really, it just takes some time and relax. You can find a relaxing music or relaxing hypnosis for just relaxation, like on a YouTube kind of a situation, and just practice a little bit. But if you can find a teacher of meditation or someone who can actually guide you through some hypnosis, even just a friend, just get a hypnosis. Like in my book, I have a lot of scripts on how to do self-hypnosis, how to do hypnosis. Just have a friend just read it to you, a script on how to relax, and take that time to really go into the body, go into the breath, and going into your mind and learning how to just to be with that. That's a good start to begin. And with meditation, even if you just start off 5 minutes a day, it's as simple as that. The most important thing is consistency, making it a daily practice as opposed to like 40 minutes one day a week for meditation, is to have a little bit of a daily practice, a little bit every day. And then over time, it starts to build. It's like a snowball going down the hill. And that's the best way to begin.
Absolutely.
Well, I know from your book, one of the things that I appreciated about it specifically was the examples that you give for self-guided visualizations. And I think that any of our viewers could benefit from those, because I know for me, I was, I didn't know how to start, but the self-guided visualizations that you put in the book were a real help in doing that as a practice. And is this something that should be done daily or weekly, or does it depend on their needs? What would you recommend?
Well, whatever you need at the moment. I mean, I would recommend, if you can do this daily, is the best, because you want to make it part of who your daily practice. Just like many of us practice, we do practice in martial arts daily. You need to practice. This is part of the martial arts. This is part of this, any kind of kata. You take some time beforehand and you relax yourself, whether it's in karate or iaido. We do this in our daily life. Just take 10, 15 minutes a day just to do it. And then over time, it becomes sort of a less and less of a conscious habit. You start to find yourself being more positive. One of the things about hypnosis is learning to, I think the big fad word is manifest. You create your realities today and all that kind of stuff. But we want to be positive. And you want to speak into existence what you want to see. Start to reframe your experiences in a positive manner as opposed to a negative manner. And because if all you focus on is the negative, it's all you're going to ever see. But if you focus on positive, you'll see that. And I think that hypnosis and the meditation helps you reframe your life in a more positive way. Like I used to help a lot of folks with quitting smoking. And one of the things I have them focus on is stop focusing on being a non-smoker, because you're still focused on smoking, because smoking is still a non-smoking. You want to focus on how much you're a clean air breather and how much you love clean, fresh air. And so it's a subtle shift. It's a subtle shift in focus, but it's a big focus, because it's taking you into health and healing as opposed to staying stuck on smoking. Whether it's non-smoking or smoking, you're still stuck on smoking. And it's too easier to go backwards. And so with healing, like when I tore the meniscus in my left knee many years ago, I'd focus on how great that knee is feeling. Not how bad it felt, but it feels wonderful, and it's getting better and better every day. And that's kind of speaking that we talk about it, and it gets better and better. And science backs us up. I mean, hypnosis actually facilitates healing. They've done research studies on hypnosis and surgeries and all that kind of stuff. And they use it quite a bit in medicine nowadays. So so you speak it, and the body actually responds to every word you say.
Yep.
I know that in the 1970s, a lot of this, it was really foreign concepts, and people, not only did they resist it, they spoke out against it.
Oh,
And how did you break people's mindset on that? Do you think that like millennials are more open-minded toward this than like our generation, or is it? I don't know how you got past that from the 70s to being
yeah.
accepted as it is today.
Yeah, it was long haul. I mean, I did my master's thesis this is back in 1978 on Zen meditation and the prevention of professional burnout. I was already starting to take a look at meditation in the world of therapy. And I lost jobs and job interviews because I started talking about it.
Oh, wow.
But over the years, the science caught up to it. I think, and I agree with you, a generational change helped. I think a lot of folks like I said, my children's generation were going to be more open and receptive to it. Eastern philosophy and mysticism was so foreign back in the 70s. I mean, you were really a whack job if you were doing this stuff. Sure. And I was the guy out in the backyard doing yoga in the 70s and doing all this stuff. And yeah, you just kept on going because you knew it was worth it. And it was because I needed the healing. This is the stuff that I knew worked for me. And I don't care what other people said, I knew it worked. And so I just kept plugging away. And then again, science broke it through for myself in my profession. And again, I do like to follow the facts. I'm trained that way as well. And so it's really great to follow the science behind meditation, mindfulness, hypnosis, and having it coming into the Western world and being validated. There's a pros and cons to that. I mean, sometimes, again, in the Western medicine, they've taken mindfulness and meditation and they tend to, again, use it as a parts kind of a thing. And some of I don't like to tease it, but some of the new agey people have taken some of the stuff over, and it's gotten too far out in my mindset, too far out there for magical thinking. And so where you get that good balance of just being quiet, being centered, and the body takes care of itself. Okay, we're a naturally healing organism. And I talk about this in the book. And so if we learn just to rest and be still, it naturally heals. And we can help it a little bit with herbs, nutrition, proper mindsets. It's just that simple. But if you've got some major issues going on, definitely seek, medical, advice. Western medicine has some good stuff to it. Again, for general lifestyle issues, yeah, just practice this every day.
Absolutely. And here's something I remember. I haven't seen it in a while now, but back in the 80s, a lot of the schools, karate schools, even Korean schools, they would have like a 5-minute meditation either before or after class.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And all that started dwindling away.
Yep.
Why do you think it dwindled away?
Perception and the pursuit of money. I hate to say that way, but that people are trying to advocate to the Western mindset. And so they wanted to eliminate anything that spoke of any kind of Eastern mysticism. And it just comes from our perceptions. And so part of it is just to help re-educate people. They're scared. And so sometimes if people wanted to keep their dojos open, they sort of kept that quieter. And that's just the way it went. Every system, I think it still has values of what people were doing because people are being introduced to the arts. And I think over the years, people will gravitate towards that quieter. They'll find the meditation. And because seriously, even back in the 70s, we didn't do it in our style in Koshin. I mean, we took out a few minutes, but not like, when I was teaching, we would take a lot longer and really focus on that.
Yeah.
So it's just changed. There's just, there's no one answer to that, but really it's about perception and making sure you can keep your doors open. Because I went through that too as a martial arts, I owned a dojo,
Well, I,
Yeah.
I know for me personally, being here in the South, I'm in Florida as well, that,
Mhm.
in the 1980s, I actually had local ministers that visited my school because they
Mhm.
wanted to make sure that we weren't teaching religion. And I
Sure.
said, well, we don't teach specifically religion, but we do borrow beneficial aspects of Eastern
Yeah.
philosophies.
Mhm.
And do you see a more open mindedness in that practice of the philosophy side coming from a Soto Zen Buddhism background?
Yeah, I'm seeing more of I see more openness nowadays. I mean, at least the people that I've attracted to me. Yeah, I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, I'm going to attract those people that are interested, and those folks who aren't going to come to me. You know, but I do see more openness. There's a lot more books out there on the market nowadays. A lot of good books on the internal aspects of the arts, especially as people. I think especially as the Chinese arts start to open up more. I think they have some of the stronger, I think, healing arts with the traditional Chinese medicine, and which incorporates a whole philosophy, which we talked about, and
Sure.
going with the flow, working with ourselves. But I mean, even in my dojo, man, I had statues of Buddhists. I mean, people knew that if you wanted to go study with me, it was basically you're going to be sitting in Zen. I had a Zendo in my dojo. I was at the time I was living in Omaha, Lincoln, Nebraska, and I was studying with a Zen priest who was out of Omaha, and he would come to my dojo once a month. We'd send another priest down, and we would hold retreats in my dojo. So I was known as the Zen guy. In fact, my dojo was Zen Mountain Karate Academy. I mean, I just opened it up, and this is it, and I attracted people. And and this was the 1990s. And so I had
And
a very
what advice, sir, would you give to people that are just beginning this journey? What's the first step to them invoking their own healing abilities of their body through this practice? What's the first step of making that happen?
I just believe that it can happen. You know, just educate yourself on different aspects, different practices. You know, from hypnosis to meditation to yoga, Reiki. Many of these practices are very beneficial. Begin to practice Qigong, Tai Chi. Many of these things have they're very beneficial. But it's really learning to look inward as opposed to just focusing on muscles and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, the yang style, yang part of ourselves, that masculine, macho kind of mentality that we've all had back in the 70s and 80s even. But taking a look at our internal world is a good start. Just every day, just begin to read. Find a teacher. If I can advocate anything, is to find a teacher who's, you know, a teacher is just someone who's been down the road a little further than you and who's open.
Sure.
And somebody you connect with. It is about connectivity. And I connected really well with my Zen teacher. And I've met other Zen teachers throughout the years. Some I've connected with, some I can't study with that guy or gal. You know, there was just no chemistry. And so that's the way it is with like healing arts, karate art, martial arts, any of these things. If you find a good teacher, that's the best.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's kind of like trial and error until you find that one fit.
Exactly.
You know, there's a martial art for everybody out there. And something like you said, there's some of these arts come with other benefits of the healing and so on and so forth. And you just have to be around for a while. I don't think the subject of martial arts healing and the martial arts mentality calming wise, I think people know that it exists already.
Mm-hmm.
But if you bring it to a beginner, they have so much stuff already in mind that they'll be convoluted with so much stuff and confused that they'll just quit by themselves.
Right.
Instead of bringing it in maybe to a upper intermediate advanced student,
Mm-hmm.
you know, try these benefits.
I try to keep things simple. That's why I wrote the book as well. Is to I originally wrote the book as a training manual for my students,
Sure.
And so I wanted to keep things simple. That's why I borrowed a lot from depth psychology and just put martial art analogies with it. you know, how your mind is a dojo, and how our thoughts are like is our katana. You know, if you don't use your imagination or your thoughts properly, it'll cut you up. And so, but if you use it properly, it'll heal you. So I tried to give really, you know, practical kind of things that they could relate to, that you can use. That's not mystical or magical. It's just very down to earth, very practical. And I tell people, if you don't think that the mind influences your body, I just say, think about head lice for a moment. You know, did you ever get that letter from home from school that your kids have been exposed to head lice? You know, I'll talk to people, I'll even scratch my head a little bit. You start talking about head lice, your heads start to itch. And just that, people go, oh my goodness, you know. And so that's how powerful the mind is. And so we begin to do that with our healing, but in a positive way. We begin to speak healing. I'm getting better. I'm doing well. Very practical. So we're using our swords, our mind swords, our thoughts, using our emotions properly, you know, responding to them in an appropriate manner. That's our wakizashi. That's our short sword. And our tanto, the knife itself, is our faith. Because when it's real close quarters, man, you got to pray. But this stuff actually will work. And by giving things, practical things for people to do, you know, like just talking about head lice, and getting experience of this, it can help seal the deals. And I used to do that a lot in my counseling practice. I used to have longer hair down to my shoulders, and I looked like Doc Brown from Back to the Future. And I worked a lot with, I spent 14 years working with indigenous nations of our country. And so working in Indian country was phenomenal. I love native culture. Earth cultures are earth cultures, and they totally got what I was talking about. But I was the crazy old white guy that talked about head lice, you know, and we laughed and joked in therapy, but that's part of the healing as well. But making this very practical for new people, you know, getting back to what Richard was talking about, how do you introduce this to people in very simple little steps, and giving them that thread, and that it's possible.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. And Richard?
Yes. Well, I would, you know, really like to thank you for being on today. And, you know, it was exciting for me because, like I said, I've really enjoyed the book, Black Belt Healing, a Martial Artist's Guide to Pain Management and Injury Recovery. Like I said, I feel it's a topic that is often overlooked and under-resourced. So I would highly recommend that the viewers find this book, whether on Amazon or Barnes and Nobles, and to also to follow you on social media. And so when we upload the video, I'll share a link to your Facebook so that people can follow you, and also the link to the Amazon page where they can find your book. And like I said, this has been a real treat for me because I feel almost like it's a mentoring session from one of my favorite authors to get to question you like this. So it's been a real privilege, sir. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. And I appreciate the offer and get a chance to, you know, meet you actually.
No, that's, you know, we want to thank you because you've answered questions. That's why I was nodding the whole thing and thinking back to some of the training, because everything you were saying, others had said, and I was like, okay,
yeah,
it's real.
It's real. Mm-hmm.
And that's what people need to understand. Sometimes you're told stuff in training that later on in time you remember it.
Yes.
Whether it's a technique or whether it's a phrase or whether it's something that they mentioned or whether it's something they did, it'll come back to you, whether you're training others and then you see, oh, that's what
they're talking about. Exactly.
You know, and this just brought that to mind. I want to thank you for doing what you're doing. I will order your book, and I'll go into Amazon and get that because it's a subject matter that people need to understand. And thank you once more for coming on. And we'll follow you on Facebook, vice versa. And believe me, in this time and age, we need to take a couple of deep breaths, and everybody needs some self-healing to live.
Yes, definitely. Well, thank you. Again, I'm honored to be asked to even be here. So thank you.
It's
My
our
pleasure,
honor.
sir. And
Until next
in
time.
closing, I would just like to, say to our viewers, thank you for watching the Fight for Your Health TV show. We've appreciated David Nelson being on the show today. And of course, our host, Professor Buitron, and his insights as well. Thank you for watching. Leave us a comment, like, share, tell your friends about the show. And once again, the book is Black Belt Healing, available on Amazon.com.
Absolutely. Until next time, much peace.
Hey, thanks.
Hosts